Welcome to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
So my skeptical mind, and that's just who I am, my skeptical mind goes to, well, yeah, of course, you've got this guy over here that's logical and reasonable, and you got this guy over here that's wearing a tinfoil hat. Of course the tinfoil hat guy's going to see a lot of stuff, right? He's like imagining it, or he's watched one too many sci-fi movies.
But it was used to help us frame hypotheses for UFO propulsion, power, stealth, weaponry.
Everything that we experience is very positive.
Sometimes the field of ufology has a short memory span.
We didn't know anything about the $22 million back then. We just kind of thought, well, this is, and I think that was the reason why they were looking for military-type people, because in the military, you work with whatever you got, no matter what the situation is, and you just kind of adapt and overcome.
What are you going to do with all this? You can't even take care of your own files and get them put into the current system, but yet you want to go collect other people's things. So what are you going to do with this? Who are you giving all this to?
It just really struck me about how the common thread seemed to be deception, but deception of a human nature. So that's what I started thinking, who would these folks be? I mean, then I started thinking about the intelligence agencies, what role they could play, and what would be their motivations for getting involved in ufology.
I'm not saying that because the gimbal is not a rotating flying saucer, that means that all UFOs are false. Not at all. All I'm doing is I'm looking at this one case, these individual cases, and seeing if there's an explanation for those. So try to, if I could ask people out there listening, don't think that I'm trying to attack your entire beliefs about these things.
Well, good evening and welcome to UFO Classified. I'm your host, Erica Lukes. Happy to be here on a Friday evening, and wow, did I have quite the adventure last weekend. As you all who listened last weekend know, I was in Pasadena, California, where I have just inherited the Ann Druffel files, 60 years of research that was graciously donated by her family, Alice, Charlotte, and Ellen. They were very kind and knowing that I will continue their mother's work, that I will make sure that other researchers who have a passion and who are intelligent have access to the information and we can move things forward. I have been in shock and awe as I've taken each box into the new home of all of these files, and I've been looking through and finding handwritten letters from J. Allen Hynek to Anne, finding the first copy of Firestorm that has notes from Jacques Vallée on it, and all of these things, pictures of James McDonald. It has been amazing. Slides, cassettes, over 100 cassette recordings of interviews that she conducted over the years, and to hear her speaking with Betsy McDonald, the wife of James McDonald, was really amazing to hear the way they laughed, the way they talked about politics, the way they talked about what happened to Dr. McDonald towards the end of his life. It is really very profound, and I look forward to getting information out and building on her important work with Firestorm. This is a blessing, and I want to say that this is a win for all of us. As you know, all of you who listen to my show, there are many games afoot right now, and one of the biggest games afoot is the sweeping up of quote-unquote data and putting it into the black hole so the history can be rewritten. I mentioned last week that when you take a body of human beings' work, their blood, sweat, and tears, and you just say this is, data, then you dehumanize their personal experiences, and that's what's happening. And we can think, you've got the Bigelow boys and one team over here doing this and steering the narrative, and then you've got the Bissell boys over here who are going in with their little, their little brooms, and they're sweeping it up, and we're supposedly doing this for the greater good, but not so much. So just so you know, I am here, I am doing the best that I can, and I will tell you, it takes a great deal of time. It is incredibly expensive to travel, to get the right equipment, and to make sure that things are preserved, but I will do it because this is in our greater good. So on that note, I want to thank all of my show supporters, people all over the world who are here that donate to the show every week. I appreciate it. I couldn't do it without you. And so thank you, Mario. Thank you, Scott Brown, who designed some lovely graphics for me. You guys are the best. And before I get to my guest this evening, because I'm super stoked about having her here, we're going to have a great time, I want to just read a little pamphlet that I found when I was looking through Androffel's files, and this just made me giggle. This is from the International UFO Congress. And it starts off by saying, what unsettling disclosures will the government make on UFOs before this year is out? And then it says, the April 18th issue of the U.S. News and World Report stated that before the end of 1977, the government, perhaps the president, is expected to make what are described as unsettling disclosures about UFOs based on information from the CIA. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. So, yeah, and where have we heard that before? Where are we hearing that again? I don't know. We're going to talk about things and just talk with my guest this evening, the lovely, talented, intelligent Jill Hanson. We're going to talk about disclosure, some of the things that are taking place, women's issues in the field of ufology and whatnot. I'm looking forward to it. Jill Hanson is the founder and host. She's a writer, speaker, independent researcher, talk radio host, and currently pursuing an M&M and DNM from, and she received her bachelor's, actually in interdisciplinary, if I could speak English tonight, this would be the seventh sign of the apocalypse. But anyway, studies from the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco, completing her undergraduate thesis in quantum consciousness and neurodiversity. With a broad academic background spanning anthropology, chemistry, biology, astrophysics, and fine art, Jill brings not only a strong interdisciplinary foundation and approach to the scientific exploration of the nature of consciousness, perception, and reality, but is also an active, lifelong passion for science and the paranormal, subjective reality, perception, and the inherent relationships between these disciplined areas of inquiry. You can listen to her. She has the Q Science Project, and it is amazing. This is a study of integration of self, individuality, identity, and she also has much more that she's going to talk about. Her I mean, seriously, Jill, could you stop just being so talented? Well, good Lord, clearly it's just so intense. But you can write my bio for me. I would love that. No, it's amazing. It's so good to hear your voice again and to hear your laugh. And I've missed talking with you. And you and I became friends. Oh my gosh, it's been over a decade ago. That's crazy. I mean, over a decade ago. Hello, Grandma Moses. That would be over 5 years ago. I don't know. I'm telling you. I think, yeah. I know. I do too. That was fun. It was an era, and I will tell you, so much has happened, for both of us between then and now. And so what are you doing now? Like, what are you up to? Like,
well, as I had mentioned to you previously, I took a little bit of a hiatus from radio, took about 1.5 years off to kind of deal with some life stuff that really needed my attention. Refocused a little bit, spent some time with my family, and just kind of refound center. It seems like, I've been on the air since 2014 and went into radio pretty hard and kind of put everything else on the the side burner there, and just really kind of needed to refocus and recenter. And I don't know, I'm one of those people that I love challenge and I love growth. And if something feels stagnant to me, I'm going to look for a way to have that thing grow with me. And so during that year and a half away from radio, I kind of needed to find some clarity as to how I needed to evolve the Q Science project along with me. Otherwise, I was kind of at a place where I was about ready to just like ditch radio altogether. I wasn't sure if it was for me anymore because it's always been such a stressful thing. But, here I am. I've been back on the air, I think 5 weeks now, 4 or 5 weeks. And we are now kind of going into video format, which is another layer of complexity and anxiety for me.
Oh, Lord, Lordy.
Yeah. But,
that's
all
exciting.
in all,
I mean, like, honestly,
it
I have
is,
to say, if I had my video camera on while I was doing my show, nobody would ever listen to me again. I mean, it's just like...
Well, and here's the thing. I love, audio only so much because I can make all the facial expressions. I can, all of those weird, quirky things that your face does when no one's watching you.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to be very conscious of what I'm doing with my face. And it's that alone, that's like multitasking. But no, it's a wonderful thing. We're now able to include both audio and video for those people who will be streaming it, via things like YouTube and, those video streaming platforms. So makes it a pretty exciting, or I guess potentially exciting experience.
That's awesome.
So yeah, definitely. It's definitely a good thing.
Well, you're
all
gonna have to give me,
aside.
well, but you're gonna have to give me some pointers on that because I know I've had people that have said I should do the same thing, and I'm just like,
and I you know what, you totally should. I've been a guest basically since I got back to radio. I've been a guest on 2 other shows, and even though we didn't necessarily stream in with video, we did have the actual interview or discussion via video. It is such an amazing experience to be able to see who you're talking to. And this is the introvert speaking, right? So
amazing, or it could be frightening, all in one.
It could
I don't know.
No, either thing. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you can just get past the fact that you're looking at yourself, it's actually really wonderful to have those visual cues when you're having conversation with someone. So
I can see that. I mean, people are so
into it.
Maybe I will. You've inspired me, and I know it is nice to see people's face, especially. I mean, I would love to go back and have some video of some of my guests when I've asked them specific questions. Oh my gosh! They'd be running for their depends in the background, but I wish I could have that on camera.
Amazing, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, now you've given me ideas. I guess I'll have to stop doing my sock puppet show though while I'm, broadcasting.
No,
and
bring
stuff.
it on.
Oh,
full
Lord.
throttle with the sock puppet.
I've honestly been I've really been thinking about this for years, and I actually did make a couple sock puppet characters a couple years ago, and sent the photos to Nick Redfern and Greg Bishop and things. They were completely horrified, and I traumatized my daughter with one of them, but they didn't really look like the person I intended it to, but it's, we're working on it.
Yeah, no, that's a niche that needs to be filled for sure.
Can you imagine? I mean, it's just
I would totally watch it. I would totally watch it.
This is good. I've been, today I was at the store and there was a piece of fur fabric on the counter, and I thought, aha, that's going to be great on top of a sock puppet for the person I'm thinking of, because there are a few people that have, some interesting hair pieces, and you just, it's not, I'm just, okay. I'll be... Not that that's a bad thing. I'm sorry. I just, I'm telling you, I'm just a little slap happy and happy to be alive and happy to be here with you and hearing your voice.
Yeah, I am so excited about this evening. It's going to go by so quickly.
I know. But so, so tell everybody, for those who aren't familiar with you, because I have a lot of new listeners, and tell us a little bit about about your childhood, how you got involved in wanting to pursue your passion.
Sure. So it goes way back to the beginning, Erica. So I've been different since the get-go. I've always been a very introspective person. I've always been shy, had social anxiety. when I was growing up, say, I think between the ages of 6 and 10, I lived just about a block and a half up from the local library in the town that I lived in. And of course, this was the 70s / early 80s. So, free roaming was okay at that time. And anytime I got an opportunity, I would walk down to the library and pretty much just camp in the unexplained section. And so this was the place where I would read all of those, all the stories about spontaneous human combustion and mediums and, ghosts and UFOs and all of this stuff. And I couldn't figure out why I was the only person camped out in that aisle, because it was the most fascinating stuff. And the parts that really drew me in, and I think that this is probably the thread that's carried through, from then to present, is my own experiences that I saw in those pages. So from a very early age, I was astral projecting. I had many paranormal experiences. I saw, shadow people in the home that I grew up in. I would have sleep paralysis, and really, really intense sleep paralysis. I would have anywhere from 2 to 5 episodes of sleep paralysis a night, almost every night for decades, literally until I left for college. I was a lucid dreamer. And so, all of these different aspects just really, and also I'm a synesthete. So that's another thing that kind of makes my experience of the world a little bit different than the people around me. So.
And can you give, for people that don't know what that is, can you give us a little?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically my brain functions a little bit different than most people as far as sensory in, interpretation and perception goes. So whereas most people smell with their nose, see with their eyes, touch with their hands, taste with their mouth, and so on and so forth, there's a little bit of a crossed wire for me. So, I can most often see, how does it work? I can't even think about it when I'm forced to think about it. But most often it has to do with sound and light. So for me, sound and light are the same thing virtually. So, yeah, so that's primarily where my synesthesia lies. And I can taste certain words, certain sounds. I think in colors and frequencies like tones, auditory tones. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And so all of these things kind of, lumped together. It became apparent to me later in life that I'm a very different person than the average person that I'm going to come into contact with. Mm-hmm. And I guess my journey has just been kind of trying to figure that out. Like, what does that mean? What is that? What is this other experience I'm having? Is this a real experience, or is there something wrong with me? And, it's been a long journey. And I think that, the older you get, the more experiences you have and the more confident you become in your own experience and opinion of things. You kind of separate yourself from all of the, social programming and programming that kind of keeps you adhered to a very strict crystallized norms. And, I've come to a point where, I think that my gifts lie in that area that isn't kind of in the same Venn diagram as everyone else. And when it came time for me in my, I think it was 2012, I finally decided that it was time to finish up my bachelor's degree because I'd put it off for a very long time. And I went ahead and I got that. I got it under my belt, and I had a newfound, I guess, inspiration. Like, I need to do something with my life. What am I going to do? And I think that was the first time in my life where I realized, like, I can't do the same thing that everyone else does. I'm not cut out to be a banker. I'm not cut out to be in HR. I'm not cut out to do, this and this and that. I need to figure out what lights me up, and that thing is what I need to do with my life. And so pretty much within 3 months, I created the Q Science Project, which my initial intent was really just to educate. So I was going to write books. I was going to, do speaking engagements, do some online courses. And then all of that kind of got derailed when I ended up as a guest on KGRA. This was in, I think, this was actually the day before Thanksgiving in 2013. And I was a guest, and before you know it, I had an invitation to have my own show. And then, just kind of put everything into that instead of going those other routes that I had intended on doing. So I guess that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Well, and I think it's really, I mean, it's fascinating. And I remember our conversations that we had when I was on the same station, same network and things. And I just loved talking to you about your different experiences and the way you've kind of moved through this. I mean, each of us is on our own trip here. And I would bet that everybody that listens to your show and my show, we've all had relatively similar experiences, and we all have that desire to try to figure out why we're going, why we're here, and so it's just fascinating. And I have a really great question from Peter Williams Shelley, who's in my chat room, and he wants to know, since you perceive the world differently, how would you experience a UFO differently from the rest of us?
That's a great question. And I guess I think that we're running with a few assumptions there. So first of all, we would have to define what is a UFO. Now, if most people believe that UFOs are solid metal objects, then most likely, if that were the case, my experience of that would be fairly similar to yours, I would imagine. Now, again, there's so many layers of complexity here, right. Because, perception is a multi-layered thing. And my personal belief, and again, I'm not in ufology, I'm just kind of peripherally involved, but I believe they are interdimensional. I believe they know what's going on with physics. We don't. And I don't know. I mean, because I perceive things in a different way, maybe it's potentially possible that I might perceive it quicker or longer than someone else, or I might, my senses, my taste, my smell, the light, that all might be different. I might see different things. I might hear different things that someone else might not. I'm not sure if that's quite the answer that the listener was going for, but.
That's a great response, and I will keep my eyes posted on chat to see if he has anything else. And I appreciate that. And I wanted to go back to your family and how when you were having these experiences and when you grew up and you were fascinated by the paranormal and all of these things. How did your family react?
Honestly, it was because I'm such an introvert. I live very much within myself, and it was never really something that I talked to my parents about when I was young. It wasn't until later in life that I found out that my dad, and it's so funny because I spent my entire life thinking that, or my entire, childhood up until I was probably 22, thinking that my dad was, like we had nothing in common. He's just this conservative cowboy and, he's really hard on me and he wouldn't, he doesn't agree with anything I think or say and blah, blah, blah. Come to find out later in life, probably again, when I was about 22 or 23, I was home from college. I think it was around Christmas probably. And one night my dad and I just kind of hung out on the couch together and had the first real conversation we ever had. And he told me that basically he had had psychic experiences since he was a child. He said that one of the reasons that fishing was so important to him, he taught me to fish when I was 3 years old. So it's something that's really important to me as well. But he told me that one of the reasons fishing was so important to him was because it put him into kind of a trance state where he was able to intuit things. He was able to predict things. He was able to, he's privy to information that he wouldn't have been able to glean otherwise. And it gave him the opportunity to kind of recognize that state and be able to go in and out of that state. So there was that. And then he also told me there was many years growing up where my dad, we grew up in Alaska, and it's pretty normal for a lot of families. They have parents or a father who lives up, works up on the slope. They're gone for 4 weeks at a time. They're home for 2 or, some sort of similar schedule. And my dad said that, when he worked on the slope, that he would come check in on my brother and I just to make sure that we were in bed, that we brushed our teeth and see that we were okay. And when I asked him, I said, "What do you mean, Dad?" And he said, well, I can leave my body anytime I want to. And I would come every night and, check on you guys and make sure that you were okay. And I was just floored. I was absolutely floored because my dad, he's conservative. He's your man's man. He's never lied in his life. He's going to be straight up, straightforward with you no matter what. And so I knew that he was speaking the truth. And it was a really wonderful thing to finally see that I did have a deeper connection to my dad. And then also, he went into some of he's always had a solid relationship with native cultures. So it goes back to my great grandfather, who was actually, way back in the day, he owned a lot of land in North Dakota. And during hard times, the Sioux, he basically welcomed the Sioux onto his land, and they had free reign. They were able to do everything and anything they wanted to. And the story goes, and my dad told me, so I take it for rote. He said that when my great-grandfather passed away, Yellowbird actually made my great-grandfather an honorary Sioux chief because of the kindness and because of his sharing with the tribe. So anyway, that, yeah. So that camaraderie is definitely very strong in my family. And when my dad moved to Alaska in the late 60s, it very much transferred to the local indigenous cultures there. And because at the time he was a surveyor, he would find himself in, some very interesting places and very remote places where basically just the indigenous people lived. And even though typically in, the natives don't really allow white people in. They don't really talk much about their culture and reveal much about, their goings on. They actually let my dad in and had many conversations with him about the hairy men that inhabit the land. And there was even...
God, that just reminded me of a bad date from high school. I'm sorry. Sorry. Wow, it's going to take some therapy to get over that one. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Anyway, continue, please. I will have my flashbacks with the mute button on.
Yeah, I take no responsibility for your therapy. I grew up in a small town called Homer, Alaska, and just across the bay there was a tinier town called Soldovia, and he did some land surveying over there for some indigenous folks, and they told him about against the hairy man, the Bigfoot that lived there, and he learned all about how the tribe used to live in one area, and then when that became the stomping grounds for the hairy man, they moved. So anyway, so it wasn't until later in life that I really had a lot to talk about as far as, me and my dad and these things that really light me up and fascinate me.
So, I mean, and that's incredible that you and your father had those, you could talk about things. I remember and I mean, I was always kind of estranged from my dad when I was growing up, but then as we've connected later in life, I mean, it's been amazing to hear the kinds of experiences he had growing up in the late 60s and 70s and different things. He's an artist and an incredible artist. He was on my show, about 6 months ago. And that was really fascinating to hear him open up about things because it is, as you know, I mean, you face so much scrutiny doing that, and especially with your dad and growing up the way that he did, that's a tough thing to open up about, but it's good that he had someone like you to bounce things off of.
Yeah, I think that it was definitely a healing thing for both of us. I cherish, and my dad passed away in 2017, and that's, I have that, and it's something I cherish greatly.
And so how about your mother?
Well, my mom, to this day, she's an enigma. I don't mean
to put you on the spot. You can just say,
no,
it's
fine. It's so funny. My relationship with my mom can, I guess, be, it can come down to one basic interaction I had with my mom. Now, my mom came from a German family. She was very, everything was done a certain way. There was a right way to do it. And if you didn't do it that way, it wasn't the right way. And she and I butted heads a lot when I was growing up. And I remember, I think, again, I was probably in my mid-20s and I was back visiting my parents. And I can't remember why we got on the topic, but my mom asked me, she said, what do you think about God? Do you believe in God? And this comes, my parents, they grew up Lutheran and Methodist, and they forced me to go through a baptism at the age of 13, which was humiliating. But anyway, so I guess this was something that she was grappling with at her age. And so, she asked me the question and I looked at her and I remember thinking, like, how is it at your age you haven't figured that one out yet? Like, at least how you feel about it, right? Like what your perception of that is. And so that, I don't remember what I told her at the time, but because I was just so taken aback that my mom, who I guess at that point was probably in her 50s, mid 50s, it seemed to me like she really hadn't spent a whole lot of time thinking about those types of things. And I think about those types of things every waking moment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, yeah. So I just was wondering, why did it take you so long to ask me that question, Mom? And what do you think? And I remember asking her what she thought, and she said she didn't know. And to me, it wasn't a matter of, like, none of us know, right? We either feel one way or another, or we have a level of confidence to one level or another. But the way, her proclaimed unknowing it really gave me the sense that she just simply hadn't really seriously gone into those kind of less formal areas of thinking. So that, we I guess, long story short, my mom and I didn't really have a lot in common.
Well,
it's so
it is. And thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah.
I know that's a very personal thing, but it is interesting to see. And I'm always, amazed. Like you and I are both very similar in the fact that we've always been a little different, since childhood and things. And I've just, that's the way it rolls with me. And sometimes it does isolate you. And it's a fascinating process when, for me, looking at people, and I kind of throw this story out there. I've done it on more than one show, but I remember walking through the grocery store one day and just seeing, a couple women talking, and they were talking about, the soccer game and school and just different, work and things. And I just remember in that moment just kind of thinking, I will never be like that. And it was one of those self-realization moments, and not that that's anybody's I'm better or they are or whatever. It was just a feeling of
self-awareness.
Of like, wow, this is the road that I've chosen, and it's definitely different. And then, you do wonder when you look at people and you watch them progress through their life. Have they changed their viewpoints? Have they gone through that personal growth? How do they move from point A to the end of their life?
Yeah. And I think that honestly, for a lot of people, the goal is to solidify, right? Mm-hmm. They want to find out what's right, and then they're going to stick with that thing. When they've found that right thing, then, dust your hands off, you're out of the game, like, done. And what I've learned is, that's one experience of life for sure. You can do that, and it's possible to do that. But I'm more interested in getting closer to the truth versus finding something that's comfortable or quote right. And in that, I have learned, again, challenge excites me. I'm not comfortable if I feel like I'm stagnating, if I feel like I'm not learning and growing and changing, then I'm just simply not happy. To me, that's what depression is. Mm-hmm. Depression for me is when I'm stagnant and I'm not doing what I need to do to grow. And for some people, that's their lifeboat. They want that structure. it's comforting to them to have a truth or a fact and to just kind of settle in and like mark that off their list. But I'm not that person.
Clearly not.
Yeah.
That's, I think that's good. And I think most of the people that are listening to, like I said, both of our shows are people that aren't happy with the status quo, and they're looking for new ideas and answers. And I want to just ask you, because I think it is fascinating when you look at the UFO community. You have some very rigid belief systems.
Yes.
And it's like I'm amazed that a community, quote unquote, of love and light is so nasty sometimes and so narrow-minded and easily swayed in their thinking. And I think that is a really dangerous thing for all of us, for the people that are being influenced, and for the subject in general. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
On what causes that, or resolution,
or what, both?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it comes down to people that are heavily, situated within their ego. There's a lot of competition. People perceive themselves to be competing with other people. They've lost sight of the greater picture, the greater good. And I think that that pretty much, that's the synopsis right there. People have forgotten what got them into this field to begin with. Most likely, it wasn't, I'm going to write the best UFO book this world has ever seen. No, most likely, they either had an experience or their curiosity was piqued in some way, and this was something that lit them up, that really lit a fire under them. Because, man, if you're going to devote your life to this stuff, like you said, it's not easy. If it comes out to a majority of the population, you're going to lose a lot of friends, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be very mindful of who you're in conversation with and what you're talking about. But so I think that people have just kind of lost touch with that passion, that drive, that question. And it has become like science across the board. It has become about the facts and the answers. Like, there is a right answer and we will find it, rather than the asking of questions. And I don't care about answers. I care about questions. It's the questions that just like blow my mind. When I come up with a new question, I have to sit back on the couch and stare at the ceiling for 40 minutes, because, I mean, that's the beauty of life. That is what is awe-inspiring. So I wish that there was something, that would help these people kind of rein them back in and reignite that sense of awe that initially brought them into the field of ufology. Because you're right, it is cutthroat out there, and there's a lot of going on. And quite honestly, I mean, I remember when I was young, probably again, 6, 7, 8 years old, what did I want to be when I grow up? Well, maybe a veterinarian, but definitely ufologist. Like that was what I wanted to do. And, fast forward, almost 40 years, I'm in the peripheries. But one of the reasons I didn't go full board into that sphere is because of the exact phenomena that you're talking about. The lack of support, the lack of greater vision, the lack of camaraderie. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who also want fame. There's a lot of people who want visibility, and man, that is the wrong reason to do anything, I'll tell you.
Amen.
And yeah, that is the wrong reason. So, and that's what I see. There's a lot of people out there who really want to be the visible one, the one who's most this, most that, best this, best that. Rather than just having something meaningful to contribute to their closer circle or the greater circle, or just finding, bliss in what they're doing, whatever that is, or whether it's visible to the outside world or not.
And thank you. That's brilliant. And I have to say that it was interesting because, but around the time that you and I met, I mean, I was going through some things, and I think because I was so exuberant and so driven and things, and because I was a woman and yada yada, I mean, I really threw a few people off their game. And you know, as a result, I mean, I remember having a conversation with another woman of all things. But, you know, she just said to me, you know, Eric, it's taken me a long time to get in the inner circle, and you're just going to have to sit back and wait until you can be friends with these people. And I was sitting there going, I didn't know that this was like the Mary Kay Social Club for cosmetics. I mean, I've said this before in different shows. I'm not trying to diss Mary Kay. I use their cosmetics sometimes, but it's just, it was so sad to me. It's like, I thought that we were here to empower each other, and if there are younger people or new people coming into the subject, I thought, you know, the idea is to be lending a helping hand and creating that passion that you talk about, and creating something, and you know, I mean, this should be awe-inspiring. This should be a rewarding search for answers, and we should have a cohesive, supportive community. But because of the dysfunction, unfortunately, in the fragile egos or people in different groups that are stirring the narrative to distract us and things. I mean, I think it can become a very a field that isn't healthy for people.
Yeah, I think that's very much a true statement. And unfortunately, you know, the instance that you talk about, that's very much the, you know, the old boys club scheme, right? Where you have to earn your spot, and, you know, everyone should earn their spot. But you know what I learned about earning your spot? If you're not doing it for the right reasons, it doesn't matter in the end anyway. You know what? I was in banking for 10 years, and my goal was to get to be a manager, because everyone told me, when you get to be a manager, you know, it's the best thing ever. You're the boss. You get to do all, you know, it's going to make all this worth it. And I got there, and I'll tell you what, it was the same damn thing. It was the same damn thing. I was no more content. I was no more satisfied. In fact, I felt worse, because like, oh, okay, so where's that magic, like, fairy dust that everyone was talking about? And, you know, I mean, some people, all they care about is appearance. All they care about is how other people perceive them. And I can only speak from my own experience. Like, that is one of the least important things in my life. If I lived my life based on and around what other people thought of me, and I did everything I do to impress, or, you know, I mean, how shallow, who are you living for? That's not life. That is not life. That is not life. And whatever gift you have is not being used in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And it's funny, just you talking about that. I mean, I'm having memories of being at back when I was the state director for Utah MUFON. I was at a conference, and, you know, I'm a Pilates instructor. I own a Pilates studio. I've done that for 20 years, and I've been quite accomplished in that area. And I had, you know, a picture that I was using and that I still use of me with a tank top on. And I remember another state director pulling me aside and saying, "Erica, you shouldn't use that photo. You look like a slut." And
oh my
and I'm just sitting there going, okay, what? Now wait a minute, you know. So I'm a fitness instructor. I'm sorry, I didn't know that I needed to wear a tarp over myself to make you feel more comfortable, because you obviously clearly were maybe finding me attractive. I don't know what the situation was, but it's like, and it's like the, you know, men in this field use that, you know, that's the one great way that they feel that they can discredit other women, is by playing the, you know, the slut card or different things. And I've seen that time and time again with this community. And it's sad to me that other researchers, women especially in the field that are the old guard, that they don't stand up and support the younger women coming into the subject. I mean,
they buy into it. Yeah, they buy into it, and it's safer, right? If that doesn't get them the safety that they want, or that puts the perception of them in, you know, at risk, then they're not going to do it, of course. But for people like you and me, like, you can think whatever you want about me. What you think about me that's about you, not about me.
I love it.
And yeah, it says more about them than it does about you. And you just go on your way and do your thing. And the thing I love about being authentic and just like being yourself and doing you is that the right people fall out of your life.
Isn't that true?
It's amazing. It is absolutely beautiful. And over I would say the last 5 years, one of the biggest takeaways, like life lessons I've learned, is rejection is not it is not a bad thing. I no longer feel pain, like emotional pain, when I get rejected for whatever reason. For me, that's the universe's way of like telling me I need to kind of look somewhere else for this thing. Whatever I was looking for there, it's somewhere else, girl. It's somewhere else. This isn't for you. And it's like the universe got your back.
And it's so true, and it's so important, and it has been very interesting to me, and I know you've been through the same thing. It's like you get involved in this, and the people that I was friends with and supported, and you can listen to my first shows. I mean, I was such a I don't know what, a dithering idiot, I suppose, or a person that wanted to believe that I was surrounded by people that have the same motivations and goals. And so it's been an interesting process, and in that process, because I've always been very sensitive about things, and I feel like I want to do my best and support other people. That was just like you do. It's just been an interesting process to see how time and time again people take advantage of that, or their play on things like that. And it's really, I know for some people that I've talked to who've had experiences and things, that is really unfortunate that they have to go through that same type of thing. And that just shouldn't be the case for people who are witnessing things and trying to come to terms with what they're dealing with. Yeah, absolutely. And one of my primary goals is to stay out of drama. So my circles are small. I'm not really out and about. And again, I'm an introvert, so I'm quite happy being silent and all by myself. But the people that I do have around me, they're solid. They're solid people, and they've earned their spot. Like they support, they get it, they give space, they respect boundaries. And yeah, I think, as far as like the experiences that you're talking about, I think I've only really experienced that once, as far as another female investigator. And again, I've been naive my whole life, right? I believe the best in people until proven otherwise. And it's not a conscious choice. That's just how I am. And one of the only times I've experienced that was, when I started out at the radio station, and there was a senior researcher / host who to my face was, very supportive and, just appeared to be very excited for me, and, said, I'll always be here if you have any questions. And come to find out that it was the exact opposite, and that, the back chatter to other people behind my back was basically the exact opposite. And at that time, I mean, that was what, like probably 4 or 5 years ago. And at that point I was still, I hadn't really hit that really hard life lesson patch in my life yet. And so I was still struggling with those things, and I was very sensitive, and I struggled with that. I couldn't figure out, what did I do wrong? But then, again, it's like, it goes back to, that says more about that individual than it does about me. You don't have to do anything wrong or be wrong or, anything of the sort in order for someone to react badly to you. They have their own reasons, whether they state those reasons honestly or not. So life lessons, man. Gotta love them. I know you do. And I mean, that is one thing about this subject and being in this field, is it's taught me a lot about the good, the bad, the insecure.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just I've grown so much since I decided to really go public with this, and the things that I've learned have just kind of brought me to my knees. They're not. The things that I know now are not ever what I expected to find, and so that's also been kind of a big a big discovery process that
For
takes you to your
sure.
knees, you know?
Yeah, and you've also taken, the less beaten path. You've decided you don't want to play by the rules, by the normal, those MUFON type rules. You're going to blaze your own trail. And the people that are meant to follow you, the people that are meant to hear your message, the people that are meant to share your research, those people will find you and they will stick by you. And, it's going to be a symbiotic relationship there. And I think that's what life is all about. It's not having the most listeners, the most followers, the most friends. It's about finding your voice, having the strength to use it, and finding your tribe. And I'm really excited that, I've kind of, stood by and watched you in your career. And I cannot believe the body of work you just came into.
I know.
I mean, my God, woman. Just that alone, like, what does that tell you about where you are in your, my mind is blown. My mind is blown.
Thank you.
I can't even wrap my head around it. This is success. And I don't mean because you've acquired things. I mean, you have become the person that draws to them the real deal.
Thank you.
That
means
is
a lot.
That is success.
And
that is success.
I mean, I remember, I just even the couple days before I went to retrieve to get Anne's files and things. I mean, I just remember, standing outside and looking at the moon and looking at the stars and just saying, thank you, God, thank you. I will do my best to always hold these things in very high regard and make sure that her message is preserved and people can learn from that. And it's such a blessing. And like last week, a week ago tonight, I mean, I was sitting with her daughter, and it's just like, I mean, you sit there and you're sitting at a table where she used to study, where she used to interview James McDonald's wife, where she would interview all these people, and you can hear her husband coming home and grabbing lunch and all of these little intimate things, and you just think, this is like, I can't describe what it's like to hold a piece of paper in my hands where all of it's handwritten. It's like, it is such a gift for me. And so thank you for saying that, because I cherish everything that I have. And I really, really feel strongly that we have to do this. We have to preserve history. And there are people who are getting paid large sums of money that are sweeping up data. And there is a very concerted effort to rewrite history. And I'm glad that, we can do our part to make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah.
If you don't mind talking about it, what is your plan? How are you going to, what is your plan for all of this stuff? Because, these are, again, mind blown, like handwritten correspondences, one of a kind, unique items that are just, oh my God. What are you going to do with these? Are you going to frame them all and create a museum?
You know what? And I've been really fortunate over the years. I've had a lot of different people donate their archives. I mean, Jim Klotz sent me, I've got more periodicals that span back from the late 40s from all over the world than probably anybody, thanks to his kind donation, and Keith Chester and Rich Vitello and people that have been sending me their work to preserve. And so I have a beautiful big space where I invite people in for tours, to do lectures. I have, I'm in the process of upgrading my equipment so I can preserve, each individual file. And then also, we've got slides, we've got tapes we have to transfer. And so there's more equipment. And then you've got VHS tapes that we have to transfer. And so, it's a big process.
Oh my God.
But that's the path I've chosen, and it's important to preserve this. But also, I've reached out to different people in the community, different politicians, business people, different people at the university and things, and I'm trying to create a cohesive environment in a place where you could get a news outlet to come in, and then we're doing a tour, or I'm meeting or doing a lecture for, when things settle down, with COVID, which who knows if that will happen, but I'm
Right.
doing a presentation at the University of Utah Special Archives talking about Dr. Frank Salisbury's body of work, which is at the University of Utah, and I've spent a lot of time going through. So I have all of these these goals in mind, and I really think it will be a fun period of time, because there's so much, people are talking about UFOs, people that would normally kind of shy away from the subject or turn the other way. I mean, it's out there. And so I look at this as such an amazing opportunity to educate people and give people factual information and make sure that they're not getting pushed down a rabbit hole where they're buying into the Area 51 Bob Lazar kind of stuff. So
Yeah, and also the digital stuff, right? Where who knows where it's originally come from? Who knows if it's been modified? Who knows? There's so many levels of a mystery surrounding them. But you have actual tangible things that are unique in history. And it's just, I'm so excited for you.
I know. I wish
so
you could
excited
come
for
out.
you.
One of these days, you're gonna have to
man.
take a road trip. And
You know what? I would absolutely love that. Oh man.
I know that we would have so much fun for multiple reasons, but it's just like, I mean, Girls Gone Wild. I mean, we would. It's just
Totally.
like we would have so. It's honestly like just for me to be able to show that to people. I mean, I would love to show all of that to you. That would be great.
Oh my gosh. I could get totally creepy with you. Just like, oh my God. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, we were talking one time about, Halloweening together.
Oh, and I have to say that, I mean, what is going to happen with COVID to Halloween? And I've got to just talk about this before we go to break, because if anybody knows me, they know that Halloween is my time to shine. It is the night of the year, and I've had a Halloween party every year since I was like 15. And now I guess clearly I'll be doing it over Zoom, which could be a little anticlimactic, but we'll make the best of it. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I guess it depends on where you are, of course. Some communities are more opened up than others. I guess leave the. I really don't know. I guess Zoom is our best option, right?
Well, I guess we'll just see how that. I mean, Grandma Moses is getting old, so maybe Zoom is the best option. So,
well, or I don't know how big your backyard is, but you can get everybody those big clear balls, those big clear inflatable balls.
That I can picture that after a couple margaritas and seeing some of my old friends wandering around and in a ball. This would be like, I mean, I'm sure that would have been hot back at 20 years ago. But I mean, oh Lord have mercy, I could
epic.
You've given me ideas, and I kind of need to go bathe in holy water now, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh, I knew this was going to be fun. And so we're going to take a break, and I want to, again, just thank Jill Hanson, I just adore you. This is fun, and I want to thank everybody out there for tuning into the show. I'm going to play some music now, which is really a special treat. I've had Dr. Massimo Teodorani on my show before. He's an Italian astrophysicist and has done a great deal of research with regard to UAP. You can go to different websites, and I'll provide links, but you can go to NARCAP and see some of his research. He's amazing, but he's also a very, very gifted musician, and so I'm going to play a bit of music by him. We'll take a break, and then we'll be back. This is Inside a Light artwork from Totem Tag, so listen to this, and we will be back after the break. Welcome back to UFO Classified. I am your host, Erica Lukes, and it is always a pleasure to be here on a Friday night to see my friends getting into chat, communicating with me from all over the world. I want to give a shout out to Irv and Hoska and Dave, Chris Borelli, all the people that support my show, Bruce, Mario, UFO researcher. There's so many great people who are helping to keep the show on the air, and not only that, but to also help me preserve history. And it, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, to go out and to get files, to get a U-Haul, to bring them back, it's a very time-consuming and costly prospect, but this is something that I feel has to be done because there are other people, as I've mentioned time and time again, who are getting paid large sums of money from different organizations, and unfortunately, even though their goal was at some point to preserve history, now unfortunately what we're seeing is history is getting siphoned off into a little narrow hole, and people that are coming into the subject don't have access to that, and we cannot let that happen, especially with the new push, the threat narrative, the to the stars narrative that we've seen. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, again, when I pulled out this little pamphlet for the 1977 UFO Congress, where they're saying, this is it, this is the year, it's disclosure, it's going to happen, and guess what, again, we've been fooled, and so let's not fall into that same trap. I am here now with the very talented, intelligent, fun to be around woman who we will spend a Halloween together, mark my words, but I'm here. And Lord help us all. It's going to be a good time in our little plastic bubble. I'm going to go get one now and roll around like a little hamster. It'll be good, but...
with a margarita in hand, of course.
Oh, well, and a helmet and pretty much all sorts of other things. This will be fabulous. But I mean, Jill, you have done so much, and you're so intelligent and articulate, and I'm very grateful to have you here. And I'm getting wonderful feedback from the chat. Everybody is really digging the show tonight.
I'm definitely enjoying myself. It's been far too long since we've chatted. So
I know. And so I love it. And I have to ask you, Peter's asking you a question again. What is your paranormal specialty? Like if you had an area of focus?
Oh, you know what? That is my Achilles heel, is I don't have one. I am so enthralled with so many topics that I like have a little bit, a finger in each of them. Now, that being said, what I would probably choose for myself would be mediumship. If I could get over my fear, I think that would be the route I would go. I would go full board into honing my intuition and going that route.
And it's funny because for me, that's been something that I've liked to focus on, and it's just been over the past few years with learning some of the things I've learned about MUFON and Skinwalker Ranch and different things that I've taken a little bit different. I've focused on other things, but I love the aspect of what you're talking about. And, and I think that's important too. And so, I'll give you a call and tell you about some of the things in Androffel's. Dun, dun, dun.
Saucy.
I know, it's super saucy. That's right. Crazy kitten. And so, but I've got books from Anne that she's collected over the years that are just mind-blowing. And you would love it.
I'm drooling.
She crossed a lot of boundaries. I'll send some pictures to you.
Yeah.
But it is very interesting. It's interesting to me as well to see how there is this crossover between some of these characters who've been in the field for decades and how they're involved with the paranormal over here, and then they're inserting themselves into ufology, and I wanted to ask you because it's I find this really curious, and I want to. What role, if any, do you think there is to steer the narrative and use people as guinea pigs with all of this? Because I know when we discovered the OSAP contract, the solicitation sheet, it was very specific about the fact that they were testing weapons and that they were looking at the effects on human beings with regard to that. And so what role, if any, do you think that plays in what we see in this field?
Oh my goodness.
Deep questions.
What? No, it's a huge question, but it's a very important question because, again, the deeper you get into things like this, the more you do see that, there's this really sinister agenda going on. And I'm an optimist, and I look for the light. I look for the best in people. But I'm also realistic. And when the evidence presents itself, and, again, the deeper you dive, the more, I guess, just the more information you get, the more people you talk to, the more perspectives you hear, and are validated, you really come to understand. You're going to hear me say multi-layered 12,000 times tonight because it applies to everything. There are so many layers of control. And some of them are, bothersome but innocuous, and others are downright sinister. And I think that, there's disinformation, there's misinformation. I think that there is a narrative that's being touted with the intention, and of course a false narrative, getting groups of people to believe certain things, with agenda backing it up. And they're very successful. They're very successful. And I think that's the politics that we've been talking about, right? This infighting, the ufology civil war, so to speak. I think that is engineered, and it's real. It's absolutely a real phenomena.
And thank you, for saying that, because I, as well, I've watched all of this and I've seen the politics, and I know that some people like to just say, oh, well, this field attracts people that are, delusional or, what, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, there is something more going on behind the scenes. And
there really is.
If we can't look at some of the declassified documents that we have from decade after decade saying that there is a need to infiltrate UFO organizations and to surround, themselves with different individuals and to steer the narrative. And we've learned that time and time again, especially with people like Bill Moore and things. But I mean, what do you think, why do you think there is that need to control the narrative?
I think it's greed. I think it's power. People are power hungry, and the best way to have ultimate power is to have everyone under your control. And the social engineering that's been going on for decades and, even longer perhaps, has us policing ourselves and each other. So it's been very successful.
Well, and I have to ask you too, because I've been, I have this wonderful archive, and I can look back through, the decade after decade and look at some of the religious and political factions that have been steering this, and there is that need for control. And this is really a unique thing with regards to the United States of America. I mean, no other place on the planet do you have this hodgepodge of absolute garbage and disinfo and people with, where this has become a celebrity field, driven by cult heroes. And it's mind blowing to me to see. And you hit it on the head. It's greed, it's money, it's control, it's power. And for me right now, what I'm seeing is there is a very interesting, again, we've got this apocalyptic gloom and doom where people are getting taken in with that kind of stuff. And it's like the angels, the demons, the UFOs. And when you look behind the scenes, you see that people are promoting this, and they're, I'm sure there's funds going here, there, and everywhere. And it's alarming to me. And I also think it's alarming to me to see how much kind of this, neo-Nazi, really racist type of behavior has come into this.
I mean, and it's not just racist, right? I mean, there's all levels of misogyny. It's all of those, 1940s, 1950s, gender role ideals are in place at present.
Right.
That is what's they're attempting to maintain that structure. And unfortunately, because there are a lot of people, especially in MUFON, who have been there for years and years and years, maybe they've been it so long that they've become desensitized to it. Maybe they are so insecure or so hungry to be accepted that they're just going to accept their place and their role in that scheme of things. But, fortunately, there are people like you who see it for what it is, are not willing to accept it, and just kind of go your own direction, knowing that you have real research to do and that real research speaks for itself. And the people who are looking for real research will be discerning, and they will see you for what you are and what your research is. That's what this world needs.
Right. And thank you for that. It's just, it's such a trip for me to look back and look at the bigger picture and just say, oh my gosh. I mean, I think we all deserve the truth, and we deserve to be protected, and we deserve to move this topic forward.
Yeah.
And it's like right now more than ever, there is a huge push to discredit some people, to really, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And I know this goes around the board, all over the world. We're experiencing things, not just in ufology.
No, it's a scary time.
Yeah,
it's a really scary time.
And so with regard to, ufology, I've always thought that it is a perfect place to seed ideas and to watch them spin, because you've got a culture that they already distrust the government. So you can insert a narrative here. You can create this paranoia. You can, say that, this government insider who is completely fictitious, nobody can verify anything, is coming forward, and they've got these documents, and then, promote things that are completely unfounded. And it's just like it's the perfect petri dish. It really, really is. Yeah. And I'm just shocked. And so one of the things that, again, and thank you for letting me pick your brain, because I think it's so much fun to talk to, and it's a breath of fresh air. But when you look at the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, benevolent space brothers beings, the tall Venusians, you look at these, that is the ideal. That is where have we seen the blonde-haired, blue-eyed
ideal,
the perfect
before,
race?
right.
Yeah. And I sit back and I look at this, and it's like, what? Why do people not understand this?
Yeah, I know. And see, and this is where the further you dig, the deeper you go, the more you see that literally everything is connected. Everything is connected. And we're staring at stuff right in the face, not recognizing what we're looking at for the most part, most of us. And ufology, we're in a really interesting time, because for the first time ever, the powers that be see ufology as a wonderful tool, and they've weaponized it. This is the first time in history we've seen this much in mainstream media about UFOs, about, the government may or may not be divulging information about craft they have or have not seen. It's in mainstream media. It's out there. It's on a weekly basis. It used to be, it was rare, if anything, and if it was in the mainstream media or it was a blip on a newsreel, people just laughed about it. And, it's, I'm really reluctant. I'm really reluctant to see it as a good thing, because I don't believe that I think that there's something, I think that it is part of the programming. I really do. And you brought up To the Stars Academy.
Yes, let's go there.
Oh boy. Man, where do you start? Where does one begin?
Anywhere you want.
So, I've always been fascinated with the idea of celebrities who come out and, either in support of ufology, expressing an interest in ufology, or having had experiences themselves. man, the minute I heard Tom DeLonge talk about this, I was like, oh, here we go, kids.
Yeah. Kids being the right word there.
Yeah. And even, I mean, I remember it was what, two years ago now, maybe almost 3 years ago, when all this really blew up, when To the Stars Academy became, part of the ufological lexicon. I remember when they first came out and looking at the verbiage of how, like, what their intent was and the role they intend to play. And I was beside myself. I was like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now that people that are in ufology don't see this for what it is? Because it was, I mean, it was so apparent to me. It was so utterly apparent to me what the role of this academy was going to be. And, I've been out of the loop for about a year and a half, being off radio and kind of being off of Facebook and social media. And so I haven't really been up on the times, but it looks like there's a lot of people that are on board with To the Stars Academy who think that this is going to be the white buffalo, I guess. I don't know. What's your take on all that?
Oh, I think for like a day when I had hope, like you, I believe the best in humanity, much to my dismay some days. But I also remember being at the 2017, the International UFO Congress, and I was speaking and was sitting up front with a bunch of, other researchers and a few whom I hold in high regard. And Tom DeLonge got the Researcher of the Year award. And I think all of us, it was just like, the room just went silent. And then after we picked our jaws up off the floor, it was like we started talking, and it's like you've got people that were just saying, what is going on? How would that, when there are actually really good researchers in this room, would he be getting the UFO Researcher of the Year award? And it was, it was interesting. And I kept, back then I was like, okay, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. It's making the mainstream media, so I can work with this and try to educate people because they're asking questions about it, which is true. It does, give people that would never look at the topic are now saying, whoa, the Navy released these, videos. But what people aren't seeing behind the scenes is the fact that these people all have one motivation, which is to get contracts, to get government funding. They're aerospace and defense contractors. You've got people in politics who are probably getting a little, campaign contributions, different things. And so there really isn't, to me, this isn't disclosure. To me, I would think that what the videos that were released, I would be willing to bet that that's probably our own technology. And I think that we have to start looking at these facts, and you have to go back to NICAP in the 60s and the fact that the CIA was involved with that organization, and it has been nothing. And even back then, they were coming forward with these new promises and disclosure was going to happen, and now it is more of the same. But in my opinion, it is much worse and far more insidious because these people have access to social media. They have access. They can communicate with people in 1 second from all over the world, and they have this great ability to create an even more dangerous cult-like mentality. And that's very evident with what you see from some of the followers who are out there harassing and bullying people who are questioning the narrative and things. And it's just like, whoa. First of all, I know I'm sure you feel the same way as I do. I don't need the government to disclose anything to me. In fact, right now, I think, nope. Yep. I know that there's something going on. I've experienced it, and others have, and I don't need to turn to that power to tell me about my own experiences.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that, again, is part of the programming, right? That we have to have that affirmation. If we don't have that affirmation of that person or that entity outside of ourselves, it's not real. And another life lesson for me over the past 5 years is, no, if it's real to me, it's real. And that's it. And I don't need your affirmation. I don't need it for it to be real to you. And I think that when you have, because again, when it comes down to it, like evidence, facts, that stuff is going to be elusive, right? And even the real stuff, there's going to be plenty of people who question its authenticity, whether it's a genuine questioning of its authenticity or whether there are agendas behind that. Ultimately, it's not going to be everyone on board, right? Even if we had President Trump right now have one of his fun little rose garden, talks, and he disclosed it right then and there and presented evidence. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, some people will believe everything he says because he's saying it. Me, I'm on the other side of that fence. I believe nothing that's coming out of his mouth. So even if it was true, I wouldn't
be
believe
a smarter option.
But yeah, exactly. But the point is, it's having these experiences and knowing it's true for yourself, I think, is the real win. And when more and more people realize that and go out and have their own experiences and realize that that's how disclosure happens, through individual experiences, through a conglomerate of individual experiences. That's how it's going to happen, because you can show 50 people in a room a picture. It could be authentic, and you might not even get one person in that room who's going to give you the time of day and agree with you. So you have to learn to be happy with not getting that affirmation and not having that be a roadblock for you. No is not a roadblock,
And I love that. And I think this is so important for people to realize. I think, I remember having, I had an experience on the border of Skinwalker Ranch that was really quite something. And I've talked about it on different radio shows, and but it was interesting because there's such a myth built up around this place, and it's all about the evil, and this evil is following you home.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up.
It's just like, okay. And so that in and of itself took away whatever I was experiencing, whether it was non-lethal weapons testing, whatever it was. It just that set it up in my mind. And I think that is really, we have to stay away from, I believe, groups of people and really internalize this.
Well, so you brought up an excellent point, and this is actually something that I've been thinking a lot about over the past year. And it's, I guess like the how would I say that? The atmosphere around certain topics, right? Like, salaciously saying that something is evil, or romanticizing, the fear factor or the evil factor or the danger factor, rather than just seeing things for what it is. And the reason this all came up for me personally is because my entire life I have loved horror movies. Mm-hmm. When I was little, I would just devour them, and I loved being scared, and they would scare the crap out of me, but I'd go back time and time again. And the older I got, the more scared I got. And then I got more sensitive, and I can no longer watch any of them really. But as I learned more and more about what the paranormal is, that fear factor was just gone. It's like, because you can see right through that attempt to create some salacious effect. And when you see things for what they are, which is it's a phenomena, and it's perceivable to some people, maybe it's not to others. It's up to the person how they perceive the intent, if there is an intent, of that experience or the thing that's allowing or giving that experience. So I don't, one of the reasons I don't watch horror movies or paranormal thrillers anymore is because they're not thrilling to me anymore, because that fear factor isn't there. Right. And like horror movies in general, there's people who that's their thing, and they just love to wallow in the darkness. And it's this curated thing that doesn't really exist outside of their own perception of it. So I would be very curious and interested to hear about your experience at Skinwalker at some point, if you're open to that convo.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those things that it truly blew my mind while I was experiencing it. I mean, I have photographs and video. I'm not, it's something, and it's one of those things that I'm still trying to piece together. And I really, the more I learn about non-lethal weapons technologies that can actually mimic. Mimicry is a key word here. It can mimic paranormal phenomena. The more I look back at things, and the fact that I left there and I was drained, I couldn't even get off the couch for days, and then you look at a place like Skinwalker Ranch, and I have to just say, why in the world is this the only place on the planet where you have this type of activity taking place? I mean, come on. It just seems really odd to me for multiple reasons, and then it seems to be, again, kind of a circus-like mentality where you've got the same players decade after decade using this to capitalize on things, and it's like, what is going on? I mean, it really, it's sad to me in a lot of ways, because there are people in that community that deserve better than that, and I'm sure that there are people in the community who are profiting through business deals and things like that, and so that's also another layer, as you like to say, to all of this. But it really, I don't know. It's some days I just go to bed and I think, oy vey.
Just some days, Erica?
Oy vey, every day. Yeah, I don't know. And it's just, I think, and I have to stress that I think right now we have to be really cautious, and we have to understand, that when we go to Facebook groups and different social media groups, your thoughts, that your feelings, your experiences are being manipulated, and then you're going to be fed more of the same thing to stir up emotion in you and to play on your fears and all of this stuff. And for some reason, people they're not getting that.
Discerning. Well, they're not discerning, right? So first of all, Facebook, like, I'm phasing out of Facebook, and I have been systematically relieving myself of chat like groups, because rarely is there anything valuable that happens in those groups. And so I'm just not even wasting my time. Now, as far as everything else, I totally lost my train of thought, Erica. What did you say?
Well, I mean, just about the dangers of the social media and these groups. And I watch how these people, a lot of us, and it's easy to do, you get so hung up on that it's just like you're constantly going from Facebook group to Facebook group to see who's saying what. And then you get and it's really a nasty thing.
It is. And what I was going to say is that, again, people are used to wanting truth, right? Truth is a thing. Truth is a concrete thing, and this is a truth looks like this and it feels like this, and I want that. When really the truth of the matter is that the truth looks this way to this person and this way to that person. And people are way too eager to latch on to morsels of information and identify with those pieces of information. Rather than just kind of like pausing and being discerning and being comfortable with not knowing and giving yourself the space to really think something through, and maybe check over here and see what this group of people has to say about this thing, and this group of people, what do they have to say about this thing, and really taking the time, and of course, if it's something that's important to you, to kind of, again, make this Venn diagram of where do all of these different perspectives meet in the middle. And maybe that one place where all of these things overlap, maybe that is where potentially the truth can be found. But people, they trust a source and they'll just glom on and roll with it. And that's not serving anybody, especially on Facebook.
No, and that's, it's been amazing to me to see how many, when you really start looking, you look at a Facebook group, and then you see how all of a sudden there's somebody there with kind of a strange name, and they're really getting in there, and, they're trying to create division, and they're trying to say, blah, blah, blah. And then you look at their profile, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Okay, there's some major red flags here. And as we know through some good sources in the media. I mean, this is a real problem, and I think for some reason that that people in the UFO community can get wrapped up in this, and then their belief systems are kind of steered down a really dark rabbit hole, and that's unfortunate. And I just want to, I think about QAnon, and I shouldn't even say that because that means, it's not necessarily a good thing, but you think of QAnon and you think about some of the conspiracy theories and the way that is really taking us down a dark path. And I will say, even though I don't know why I'm saying this, but I will, that QAnon has been, the FBI classified that as a terrorist organization. And so at what point are people not making the connection or stepping back and looking at the fact that there are things taking place that aren't in our best interests? And this is no more apparent than in the world of ufology, where you have certain factions that are stepping in to say this is a religious experience, this is demonic, this is extraterrestrial. Well, first of all, we really don't have any proof for any of that, and I think if we have our own personal experiences, keep them close to the vest and make what you will of your own experience, because the more you the more you put yourself out there, the more likely you are that somebody is going to step in and try to hook onto you.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's a lot to be said for that. However, I think the one thing that is unique to each of us is our experience. That's the one thing that only we have, and we can learn a lot from other people's experiences. And I think the greatest thing about, speaking your truth and living your life, by your compass, on your path, are the people who you might not even notice, but that notice you and see you doing your thing and are inspired by you to do their thing. And through that, finding their own path. And, so I think that as far as what we share, what we don't share, I think it can be kind of like dating. Like, don't overthink it. Just speak your mind.
Oh, clearly that didn't happen.
Yeah, that's not even on my radar at all. But like the 3-day rule or whatever. Like, should I call him? No, it's too soon. Just those kinds of things. Like, if you're thinking about something, if you're just do it. Speak it. Do it. Live it. Whatever. And again, people will evolve themselves out of your life. You might get booted out of a talk group on Facebook because no one likes your opinion. But if they don't like your opinion and they don't respect your stance, regardless of whether or not it's the same or different, is that really your group? You know what I mean? So you have to speak your truth and be a little bit vulnerable to some degree. Otherwise, that's a fail-safe that you're not using to make sure that you're staying on your right path.
Right. And beautifully put. And I thank you for giving me something to reflect on. I guess for me and where I'm at, I'm stepping back and I'm looking at the games that are afoot right now, and it is really sad to me to see so many wonderful people spending so much time wrapped up on social media, and then they're losing sight of that. And so I think that you can, and like you said, it is important to share, but it is important to find quality people. And
Absolutely.
I can tell you that it's gonna be really hard to find quality people.
Well,
in certain places.
And that's everywhere. It's not just some places, it's everywhere, right? Not everyone is looking for quality. Most people want more, right? I want all of the friends, not just 3 really great friends that I can count on in any situation. And, when you're a researcher and you find yourself in a field where everyone is going elbow to elbow at the fishing hole, and, everyone wants that, 30-pound trout, enjoy the experience. Be there for the experience, not the trout. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think just being that example, people, that's how you're going to change the world, Erica. That's how you're going to change research. That's how you're going to change the way things are done in this field is by just staying true to your line of inquiry, doing it to the best of your ability in your way, and just like disregarding the naysayers and the people that aren't supportive and the people that try to reel you into that divisive drama. You don't have time for that. And you'll succeed because you did all of that.
And it is interesting. And I just have to say that it's because I've chosen to stand up against things that are very wrong and they are a disservice to all of us. It's been funny that you'll hear these little things. Oh, she's just a drama queen, quote unquote, or, she's just trying to create this divisiveness and blah, blah, blah. The things that people who don't know really what to do and obviously, they glom onto that, but it's like, for me, this isn't, this is something that we all need to be aware of. And if I have to go against the grain and get information out there, it's not an easy thing for me to do.
No, it's not.
It's not. I mean, this isn't easy for anybody. And I think about what my husband Chris Marks has been through. That certainly hasn't been an easy path, and working for somebody, trusting the people that he was working for, and understanding that he is now potentially or was a human guinea pig, and yet there's so few people out there that actually care because they want to believe the company line.
Right.
And it's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, for me, it's like we just have to, we each have our own role in this, and we all have to do what we need to do, and we have to be smart, and we have to stand up when people are being hurt and abused, and when there are things that are taking place that are very questionable. And so anyway, thank you I feel much better now. Thank you. Whew.
Not many people like to come out of their comfort zones, for certain. It's an issue.
Well, I'm telling you, I have conversations with my friend, Greg Bishop, about this all the time, because he's very much kind of quiet and behind the scenes, and doesn't. In fact, he sent me a T-shirt a few years ago that on it says "Do not engage," and it's like, I love that. And I'm just like, I have pictures of me over in Norway, like in my "Do not engage" T-shirt, and I'm just like, I wish that this was sinking into my being, but clearly engaging seems to be working for me. It's just
hey, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think you're right where you need to be doing what you need to be doing. You have the personality to be a game changer, whereas me, I feel it's a fluke that I'm on radio to begin with.
See, and you say that, and I mean, you seem so natural.
Well, no, I mean, to this day, so I started in 2014. To this day, I still have tremendous anxiety, to the point where the day of, I'm still, okay, I should cancel. I can't handle this. I can't do radio tonight. I need to cancel this. I can't do this. So I have near panic attacks. And especially, I think that before I left radio for a year and a half, I had gotten to a certain level of comfort with the discomfort of it. But now coming back to radio, after a year and a half of not having to face that anxiety week after week after week after week, man, I am full board into it. And it is tough. It is tough. Wow. So and I'm doing it because I see the value in it. I'm not doing it because it's easy. It's not easy for me at all. I'm definitely not someone who even wants the visibility. For me, I feel like there's important information that needs to be out there, and why not do what I can to get it there?
That's great. I mean, like I said, no one would ever think that you had anxiety about that, because you're so fluid and intelligent, and you've got, you're great on the radio. So I
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I want to ask you, because, we've got about 15 minutes until the show closes, and then your show begins for the evening. But have you ever, all of us make mistakes in this area, and because it's just such a new frontier, and we believe in people. I mean, have you ever found yourself kind of going down a rabbit hole and then having the sudden realization that, whoa, I've been completely manipulated here?
You know what? I'm going to have to say no, because I'm an observer. So I don't know how to explain it. Kind of as I mentioned earlier in the show, I have a ton of interests. I have a ton of things that I'm really passionate about, but I'm more of an observer than someone who's like in it. And it goes back to, I've always been that way. I just kind of like to sit back and learn and watch and learn from other people doing it. So I'm rarely in the mix. I'm watching everyone else do these things, and I'm, connecting the dots, watching, this piece of research over here and this piece of research over here and seeing where those connect. And so I feel like I'm doing it from afar. And because that's my MO, I don't really get involved. Like I'm just on this perch, and I don't really get involved in whatever drama is happening down in the real world, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, it does, and that's interesting. And I wish I could be like that some days. Maybe we can have a little.
I don't know. I think that you are the way you are. I think that I am the way I am. And I'm just not going to be the person who gets in the mix. I'm not going to be the person who goes to conferences 3 times a year, because I can't be around people without just completely obliterating my health. Right. You know what I mean? It's like if I went to a 3-day conference, I would need 2 weeks literally to energetically get back to where I was before interacting with all of that energy and all of those people. So I guess I've known that about myself for a very long time, and that's just, I kind of work around that. So, and I guess one of the perks of that is that it keeps me out of the drama, and it keeps me to somewhat detached in a way, because I can just, like, if I go, whatever, I can just pull back and it's like nothing happened. I'm not embroiled in whatever's happening, and I have to like maneuver out. So, and I'm just generally detached from other people's opinions of what I do.
And I think that, you mentioned the UFO, the different conferences, and it's like after going to a few of them, I just kind of stepped back and said, whoa, I'm not quite sure what this has to do with research, but I think this is just it's a social club, and that's fine. Everybody needs an outlet and different things, but I also saw the politics and the fact that at a majority of these conferences, they're not bringing in people that have anything fresh to say or anything important to say. It's just who can schmooze with the ladies, and who can, do all of the, what I mean? It's just like, I couldn't, for me, like yourself, it was very taxing for me to go to a majority of these conferences, not all, because I've spoken at a couple that it was such a thrill to interact with people and be around kind and genuine people. But I think a majority of them, it's just this big, I don't know what. It's genuine. It's just, it's insane.
It's chaotic. It's chaotic energy. And I can't tell you how, like, part of me does wish that I was that extroverted, outgoing person, because it would be so wonderful to go to these conferences and, actually meet in person the people that, I've connected with on Facebook, who listen to my radio show. It would be amazing. And maybe someday I will. But it's not ever going to be something that I can do on a regular basis. And I guess, I'm maybe 20% conflicted.
Well, yeah, I think if the one interesting thing about COVID and things that are taking place now is it really is people you don't have the conferences, and you don't have the money making machines at work. And I will say that it takes a lot of money and a lot of preparation to put on these conferences, and my hats are off to the really good people that are doing this out of the love of this subject. But then there are people that really view this as a money-making machine, and that is when you're around that, like you said, it's very draining, and that's not where I think most of us need to be. We need to be in a place that's little bit more evolved, a little higher.
Yeah, I think that the intention needs to be a lot more clear around these conferences. And I think that people need to be attending and speaking for the right reasons versus, I just need to be visible. It's expected of me, or whatever it may be. I'm curious what you think as far as like what percentage of the speakers that actually present at these conferences actually do it out of passion. Like they're there and they would be there whether, they were being paid to speak or not. They just feel compelled and it excites them to share that information. What percentage would you say that is, Erica?
Oh, well, I would say maybe, good Lordy, I would say maybe 10%.
Oh my God. That's even worse than I thought.
I know. I mean, I honestly, I can think of a handful of people maybe a dozen people that I really, respect and that are doing this from a good place.
Yeah.
And they're also the people that aren't getting asked to speak at these conferences because they're not the big dynamo who can get on stage and flash this and that and talk about Ebens from blah, 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 and different things. I mean, they're not in the UFO club, pat me on the back and, let's give props to everybody. And it's just, they're good, hardworking people that wouldn't be asked to speak. And that's really unfortunate for all of us.
Yep, the power of celebrity.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when I was speaking at the UFO Congress in 2017, I had talked to Alejandro Rojas, and I had told him that I thought that it would be great to get Professor Erling Strand over from Norway, and he did, which was really wonderful, and as did MUFON. They brought him over, which was very important, but it was interesting to me to see, even though he was the most important speaker at the conference, he had half the size of like Colonel Halt or people that are fitting this, celebrity,
the rock star mold.
And it's just like, what do you people want? Good information? Do you want to know that there is something intelligent that is interacting with us, or do you just want the same old ball of song and dance? And so it's I don't know.
They want the selfie with the person that's going to get the most reactions on Instagram.
Oh, do most of these people go to Instagram? I was thinking that was a little bit. I think they're a little bit older than the Instagram.
Are they?
crowd.
I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just Facebook, but I have seen an awful lot of selfies in the ufology community with speakers.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Whatever. It is what it is.
Whatever. And so tell us about the exciting things that you're doing and where you're going and where we can find you and all of that good stuff.
So it's all really up in the air. No, literally I live my life one foot in front of the other. So, I actually will be on the air tonight in about just over an hour with the Q Science Project. I will have Axel Balthazar on the show tonight. We're going to be talking about Big Brother technology and MK Ultra.
Oh, good.
Into those really interesting and, I guess, darker, disturbing areas. But I think, given that we're still seeing some of this activity happening, it's good for people to know it's out there.
Yes.
So I'm doing that. So I'm on every Friday on KGRA. People can find me on my website since I am mostly MIA anywhere else. My website is qscience.org. It's qpscience.org. And I mean, the Q Science Project is just kind of a constant flux of whatever is pulling my attention. And what I want to do with it is just kind of inspire people to look at their world in a different way, inform people. So topics are various. They're very wide spectrum of topics they'll see on the show. All of which, again, very much I'm interested in and have either experienced to some degree myself or, just grateful to be doing what I do.
And I love that. I mean, you're so like I said, you're just so refreshing, and it's so good to talk to you. I can't wait to hang out with you at Halloween. We're gonna have fun, and Lord, I mean, that's gonna be special. I'm gonna order my bubble tonight. I'm gonna practice.
I was gonna say Amazon. Here I go.
Oh Lord, I mean, that ought to be in my Halloween costume. Rolling around in a little bubble. Oh God.
Yeah.
It's
in a costume, margarita in hand. It's going to be epic.
Well,
watch us on IG.
Oh my gosh!
Every embarrassing moment.
Yes. It's true. They all seem to happen at the Halloween parties, but apparently the Halloween party that you're coming to is going to be legendary for multiple reasons. So
love it.
Oh yeah. And we have been talking about Halloween for years now, so we've got to do it. Even though like I can picture me now and on Zoom Halloween party and my in my costume that Showery made nameless. In my little gerbil bubble.
No, you must name.
No.
Chris
Chris doesn't know all the names. He's just coming into this thing. He doesn't.
I've seen it.
Oh no.
Oh, I am so gonna friend Chris on Facebook.
Yeah, luckily for me, he is not on Facebook. So praise the Lord.
Smart man.
But I like.
Where can I find one of those?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm telling you, it does come in handy. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you though so much. You made me laugh.
You having on, Erica. It's been a blast.
I know,
Very
it's
nice.
awesome. Have a great show, and then we
so
will
much.
touch base. And I'm going to roll the outro music here, but I want to thank everybody for listening tonight. What a fun show! I love it. Thank you, Jill, and thank you all of my listening audience and show supporters. You guys are the reason I'm here. I will have lots more discoveries to share with you from the Andruffel files and from other research that I'm doing. It is pretty profound, and I'm glad that we can actually move things forward. So make sure you do your due diligence. Don't get wrapped up in Facebook and social media, and make sure that you empower yourselves and hold true to what you know is your reality. So you can find me at ufoclassified.com. Pledge support for the show, and I hope you all are safe. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you next week.
It just really struck me about how the common thread seemed to be deception, but deception of a human nature. So that's what I started thinking, who would these folks be? I mean, then I started thinking about the intelligence agencies, what role they could play, and what would be their motivations for getting involved in ufology.